news. In fact, we are learning that the Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, while talking about India's trade talks with the United States at the Berlin Global Dialogue, has said, and I quote, "We are talking to the US, but we do not do deals in a hurry, with deadlines or a gun to our head." Remember, this is not the first time that the Commerce Minister has made such a statement. He's always maintained that India holds its ground and that any tranche of the bilateral trade agreement will only be arrived upon after careful deliberation and once Indian interests are also kept in mind. Let's listen in to what Piyush Goyal has had to say.
We are talking to the United States, of course, but we don't do deals in a hurry, and we don't do deals with deadlines or with a gun on our head. India looks long term. India never takes decisions in a rush or on the pressure of the moment. And we've accepted if there's a tariff on us, there is a tariff on us. We're looking how to overcome that. We're looking at newer markets. We're looking at a stronger demand impetus within the Indian economy. So we have a very resilient structure.
TV18's Parikshit Luthra joins me on the broadcast. Parikshit, the timing is very interesting. So take us through what are the pressures that he's referring to at the moment, and the location, because remember, he's in Berlin and he's expected to be traveling for the EU trade deal as well. When he speaks about exploring newer markets, what does that mean for India at the moment?
Well, we'll have to, of course, see the fact that Piyush Goyal was addressing a summit, was speaking in Berlin, and he was speaking about both trade negotiations with the European Union and the United States. He was not singling out any one particular country, but at the same time said, we are not going to come under any sort of pressure. We're not going to negotiate with a gun on our heads. So you may impose tariffs on us, there may be threat of sanctions, but we will negotiate on our terms. We'll only agree to a deal which is acceptable to us and is a win-win for both sides. He also spoke about being singled out when it comes to buying Russian oil. This is because Europe for long has been a big purchaser of Russian oil and gas. They have started scaling down, but they have been big purchasers of Russian oil. So Piyush Goyal and the Indian government have been saying that you cannot single out India. There cannot be this duplicate or this contradiction in approach where some countries are allowed to buy Russian oil and others are pressurized to stop purchasing Russian oil. At the same time, we also have to realize that while India may be importing Russian oil, we also export the refined products to countries in US, in Europe, in United States, Singapore, and the UAE. So that is also a fact that we need to keep in mind. Having said that, India will now look at a diversification process as far as Russian oil is concerned, but it's going to remain a part of India's energy mix because a lot of the purchases happen through third-party intermediaries. We may stop buying it directly from Russian oil companies, but that Russian oil, that Russian import will somehow, in some way or the other, remain a part of India's energy mix.
Parikshit, much was being touted on an in-person meeting that was expected to take place between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump in Kuala Lumpur during the ASEAN. But now that Prime Minister will be attending that summit virtually, will that have any bearing on the ongoing trade talks, given the President's personal style of diplomacy?
Almost on a regular basis, even though we're not meeting personally or in person, face-to-face, on the phone, the conversations are taking place at the highest level, at the level of secretaries in the MEA, in the Ministry of Commerce. Having said that, sources in the government telling us that talks have been progressing very positively. They are working on the advanced contours of the trade agreement, but we're yet to find a landing zone as far as the average tariff goes. Now, according to the industry on both sides, a good tariff rate would be somewhere between 10 to 15%. But eventually, there has to be political consensus on both sides. We know that both goods tariffs, non-tariff barriers are up for discussion right now. US does want a lot of market access in areas such as agriculture, dairy, even the automobile sector. But when it comes to agri and dairy, India has completely drawn those red lines. Both sides are still hopeful that there'll still be some sort of deal by the end of this year. But yes, it'll require a nod from President Trump. It'll have to be politically acceptable to the Indian Prime Minister as well. So we will have to reach that point in the relationship where we can say that it's a win for both sides and
All right.
conclude a deal.
Many thanks to you, Parikshit, for putting that into perspective for us with that shifting.